Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers Podcast. This is an episode that I have been looking forward to because this is a gentleman that I met on a networking session, and every conversation after that has been a validation of just how important networking is and the importance to be able to find the right people to collaborate with. Because you really want to make sure that you are working with people that not only understand what you do, but they can speak to what you do properly. Because the people that can speak to what you do in rooms that you're not in are the people that allow you to be able to get into those rooms, or at least have the people in those rooms come seek you out where you can give a little bit more context. So with that, I want to welcome Brandon Drake. He is a client relationship management expert, but I would also say he is a collaboration expert. And in a world where we are dealing with people that are chasing out leads and trying to figure out how to be able to survive as business owners, someone that can talk to you about not just relationship management with your customers, but relationship management with all the people that you meet that can actually help you. This is a time where referrals are more important than ever. So with that, I want to say welcome, Brandon, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited to shine a light on everything that we're doing and you're doing. Like that's the goal of relationships, like supporting one another, not me, 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 me. How about you as well?
There is that. There is definitely that. Okay, well, now I love to start with the promise, and the promise is by the end of this episode, you have a better understanding of the state of networking and collaborations, the importance of vetting who you not just connect with, but invite on your journey, and how to systematically stay up to date with them, not just on who's in your network, but what's going on with them, so that you can continue to add value first. And secondhand, by putting people in contact with people that can help people on their path to their definition of success. So with that, that is the segue into really being able to talk about what you do. You call yourself the healthy data guy, but you've built something most people struggle with, and that's a systematic approach to relationships. What made you realize that networking needed to be treated like a science and just not something to wing?
I really wanted to do something different than what everybody else is doing in terms of trying to create leads for themselves, whether it be cold calling, spending money on advertisements. I know how to do cold calling. I've done it before, but I wanted to do it in a way that more resonated with the way I wanted to do business, and that's an activity that I like doing. And I discovered that I really enjoy networking because there's so many different ways in which you could support somebody based on getting to know them. And I really like creating that mutualistic relationship where both parties are contributing to each other's success. Because I learned that when I quit my corporate job in 2016, there was really no networking in place. It was just so sticking with your group, talking to groups, other groups if you needed to for work when you needed them for something.
Hmm.
And I just enjoyed the process of networking when I started my own business. And yeah, I started systematizing it and started integrating my CRM into my networking process. And as I refined it over and over again, so that since 2020, it got better and better. And because of that, it got better and better in terms of remembering everybody and remembering the important people, connecting them with the right people, and allowing me to contribute to their growth. But in return, those people will recognize that I was giving them good connections, and in return I would get good connections from them. And then for the most part, we're creating a mutual environment where we're both contributing to each other's success. And I got a good addiction to it, and I kept on refining my system so I could improve the growth of not only my business but my networking partner's business. There's many different details that go along with it, but that's a high level 5,000 foot overview of why I enjoy networking, because you never know who you can meet that could connect you with the right people. And at the same time, you never know how I could connect that person to the right people so that I could continue to contribute to what they're doing.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the things that I want people to be able to take away from it is, as much as you and I talk about entrepreneurship, I like to also make things about universally how to be able to apply it. And I think universally, what people miss the mark on right now is they're so overwhelmed with their own agenda and the things that they're trying to accomplish that they forget what it sounds like to the other person when they go in with an agenda, and they forget that it's also someone else that has their own stuff going on. So
Hmm.
I love that one of the things that you're working on is it's not just about creating these relationships, because relationship is that you have to be able to relate. And I think we're seeing a lot of people that will network, and they will get on calls and they will talk about what's going on with them. And I get on these 7 minutes, 6 minute, 8 minute calls where there's networking sessions, and someone can talk about themselves for like a good 5.5 minutes. And then they get down to the end of it and realize you kind of glazed over and then say, oh, well, tell me about yourself. To go, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think we're both clear on the fact that you don't care anything about what's going on with me. You just want to talk about what was going on with you. So
Yeah.
I think one of the best parts about not just our conversations in general, but our initial conversation was there was none of that. There was, okay, you know what? Let's talk about like what led up to you getting to where you're at. And then we started to find those commonalities. And those are what I like to call the green flags, as opposed to the red flags that we'll end up running into, where people are very me orientated, as opposed to trying to listen for different things. I think one of the things that really stood out to me was your ability to be able to not just listen for yourself, but listen for other people as well. And that's one of the things that really stands out about your system, because I think that there are a lot of people that do or say they do client relationship management, but what they're really doing is saying, okay, well, I'm just going to tell you when you need to send out an email. I'm just going to, schedule something so that you know that you send something out every 30 days, 60 days, or what have you. But what you're really doing is you have a system to be able to keep track of what people are doing and really be able to, when you're doing a check-in, you're doing a legitimate check-in. You're trying to make sure that you're up to date with what's going on with that person, and that leads to better conversations. So where we see a lot of people going in one direction, we see you going in a different direction that is actually more meaningful and significant, and it stands out. And it also makes me think of a story that you told me about your dad dropping you off at arrivals instead of departures at LAX, which I thought was hilarious. And I would love for you to be able to share that story to give people a little bit more context as to why you're not trying to chase the crowd. You're going in your own direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with an example of him and my parents telling me like really be an independent thinker, and that example just showcases him saying, "Look at all these people, all followers. Like everybody's dropping everybody off at the departures. I'm just gonna drop you off in the arrivals. Hardly no line. Easily gets me to
Right.
there. Get accomplishes the goal, and that's what I like doing. I like being an entrepreneur because you could be so creative
Yeah.
in what you do. Everybody goes through a different journey to get to the same goal. And I'm very analytical, so I look at what everybody else is doing. Yeah, sometimes I'll do what everybody else is doing, but if it doesn't align with the way I want to do it, I find other ways to go on that journey to accomplish the same goal. And that's an example of the getting leads. Networking was my favorite way to get leads and generate leads for other people. And also, too, I'm naturally don't like really talking about myself unless people ask. There's
Mhm.
some, like you said, the red flag is when people are constantly talking about themselves, this accomplishment, this acronym that they have, or whatever it may be. I don't really care about that. And that turns most people off. Like, I want to understand what you're all about, what makes you tick, what's meaningful to you, so that I could give you those right introductions that align with your values. And then in return, it all comes back to, in the beginning, I wasn't sure if it was a right way to go about doing business because everybody else is doing it a different
Mhm.
way. But what confirmed within me that strategy was when I read the book called The Go Giver, and it just talked
Okay.
about how these people were just giving, giving, giving because they knew that in the long run, those people would remember them. They'd
Mhm.
see how respectful you are, how high integrity you have, and they would return the favor. At least the ones that really understand what you're doing. And it just came back to me a lot more. Like people would know who I am. They talk about me. They were doing, like they were on my own brand ambassadors. Man, Brandon's really organized. He's connecting me with the right people. And I knew after I was getting testimonials from people
Mhm.
and through reading the book that I was going in the right direction, and I was creating something for myself that, not everybody is able to create. Yeah, they create it not with a system. They use their minds or their notebooks or their notepads or their Excel spreadsheets. Like I have a systematic way that I'm building for the past since 2020 to keep track of all my contacts in my CRM, whether they're a networking partner, a customer, or a prospect, what kind of engagement score they have, basically measuring how engaged they are, because now I get to focus my efforts on those people that are more likely to give me referrals. Those people are more
Mhm.
likely to convert to customers. And in return, I want to return that energy. So it's very measured in what I do. Not only am I using my human intuition, when talking to people, but my system is measuring how active they are. Are they opening up emails? Are they closing? Are they
Right.
subscribing, unsubscribing? Are they filling out forms? All those activities are assigned engagement score points. So now I can make informed decisions over who to focus my efforts on, because those people are more likely to contribute to what I'm doing. Therefore, I want to return that energy and contribute back to them. Everybody's keeping track of stuff differently, but I'm very
Mhm.
systematic and very planned in my strategy for connecting people and who to focus my efforts on.
I think you're almost doing yourself a disservice because it's not just logical, but it's sensical. Like it makes sense when someone actually realizes how you set everything up. Because we've kind of seen this shift from a flawless resume to something being where people aren't actually looking at resumes the same way. What they're looking at is the relationship. We're in a
Hmm.
relationship era, so a lot of times where I hear people say, well, I'm looking for a job or I'm trying to get these connections or I'm trying to get in with this person or that person. It's not the resume. It's not your accomplishments that actually allow you to be able to have the
Right.
conversations that you really want to be able to have. It's the relationships. It's who can who can say, no, that person's all right. You should probably give them, 10, 15 minutes. And within that 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour, however long you may get, then that actually opens up the door for you to have a real conversation because preconceived notions of what people see online, you're never really going to see somebody post something on LinkedIn or any of these platforms talking about how they're mediocre. They're always going to put their best foot forward. They're always going to say, this is what I'm able to be able to do and accomplish and everything else. It stops being as meaningful. And like you said, you're looking at engagement, but engagement is also understanding, are you an engaging person? Are you someone that I can put on the phone and I know when I introduce you to someone, they're going to get as well as they give, and it's going to be that type of conversation. Or is it someone that may get on a call and they don't really have anything to say? Then you have to kind of give that person a heads up to say, yeah, they're not very talkative, but they do have value. So if they're not saying a lot, then you have to kind of pull some of that information out of them. Those are the types of things that are in your notes that I think really help people be able to truly understand. It's not just about taking notes, it's about taking meaningful notes that will actually allow you to be able to have the context. And then one of the other things that I know that you do is you do check-ins. So you're not just getting information and going, okay, well, the last time I spoke to that person, that's what it was. So I'm assuming it's still the same thing. You actually check in to be able to make sure that you're up to date with what's going on with people because someone could have been a great person of character and then went through something where now they're really more hungry for the money. And you could say, well, what I know about this person is they're never really going to do a sale. Like they're really more interested in helping that person out. But now they're in a position where they're a little more monetarily focused. And in those situations, their process may be different. They might have switched things up. So having a system that allows someone to not just track things, but to know what to track and to be able to have a system that says, you know what, I can customize it to what your goals are. I think that's one of the really valuable things that you have set up for your clients. We've talked about the relationship side of referrals, but with your clients, you're actually helping people onboard and set things up so that it aligns with their definition of success. And I think that's really powerful because uh, we're in an era where retention is really, really important. It's hard enough to be able to get some business initially, but once you get them, then it's even more important to be able to hold on to them. And I really appreciate that about what you're doing. So
Yeah,
you do
it
something that most
identifies the
people
green
don't
lights
do.
from the red lights. That's essentially what it's doing.
Yes.
Like somebody could say that they're going to be in contact, blah, blah, blah. That's all talk, no action. There's no
Hmm.
action. And the system shows whether or not there's no action. And therefore, because of that, I can make an informed decision of not to focus on that particular individual because they're not really about their word. There you go. And you'll see the people that are about the word over a span of like 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. You'll see how engaged they are, because I always will follow up with them, and the system is reading whether they're replying, whether they're opening up stuff, whether they're contributing to referrals or connections for me. Like all that is being kept track of. So therefore, I have an accumulated amount of data that allows me to make an informed decision over who to focus my efforts on, because we only have so many hours in the day that
Hmm.
we have to make it count with the people that are also contributing to what we're doing.
Absolutely. So now let's dig into what it looks like for a client because this isn't just a system that you have in place for yourself, but you're also able to be able to help people understand how to be able to set up a system for themselves. So with that, that requires a certain level of understanding of their business. And there's an onboarding process that allows people to be able to tell you these things so that you can structure something that's really more custom for them. I think there are a lot of people that will just hop on a CRM because they see it's on sale and things like that. And then they're doing trial and error. But They're not really setting up a system, and the only people that really know to set up a system are people that are more seasoned, and they're probably not giving away their trade secrets. So you know these things, and then you're actually taking it and being able to help people set up their systems. Can you walk me through what that process is like? Because it's not just the CRMs that you're helping set up and then their systems, but you're actually vetting these CRMs as well. Like that's something else that most people don't really do. You're having actual conversations with the people that are calling the shots to make sure that when you make a recommendation, you're making a recommendation based on not just what you know about that business, but what's going to be the best fit for that actual customer.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at filtering in and out CRMs, the absolutely first thing I look at, there's other factors, but this is something that is definitely valuable to mention because most entrepreneurs plan to grow. Obviously, they're going to plan to make more, accumulate more contacts, more prospects, more customers. And if that's the case, I highly recommend people really take the time to not and to avoid CRMs that do the stair step pricing models. So,
Yes.
example of stair step pricing is when you grow your contact list beyond a certain amount, and some companies will say, hey, you reached the threshold, you have to upgrade to a pricier package. Or if you happen to add new staff members into your CRM, they charge you per user, per seat, per month. So, for example, it could be $50 a month. If you look at the fine print, it'll say $50 a month per user per month.
Hmm.
So, say you had 10 users, 50 times 10, that's $500 extra per month. So, you have to really be cognizant of that. And most people don't pay attention to that. They don't read the fine print. And that is something that is very costly decision that ends up being the wrong decision to make in terms of what to commit to in terms of a CRM. And also, too, the other thing, another example of stair-step pricing is if you continue to grow and you need additional features, that means that you have to upgrade to a more expensive package. Even if it's one
Yes.
feature that you want, that
Yes.
next feature up could be in a very, very expensive package amongst many other features that you don't need, but you need that
Hmm.
one feature, but it doesn't matter. You have to upgrade to that whole expensive feature. And I tell people, do not make that wrong long-term decision. Because a lot of times people look at the immediate gratification. They look at the free trial. They look at the
Hmm.
low cost. Well, those things are, I call it the gateway entry drug because they're going to get you hooked on it. They're going to start, they're going to start like, over time, you're going to grow and then it's going to be a lot pricier. And then you're going to be so hooked on it that you can't leave because it's too much work to migrate to another CRM. So I want to make sure that I educate all the people that come into my network about the right CRM to choose that's good for you for the long term, not the one that's good for immediate gratification. So that's the first thing I start off with. And then from there, like they could take my recommendation of what I've already done my research on, and they could take my CRM recommendation, or they could take that knowledge that they have and do their own independent filtering for themselves and research for themselves so that they could filter out those stair step pricing modeled CRMs or whatnot. So that's just the first step. And then the next step is if I know that they do want to work with me after I make a recommendation, the goal is to get a general understanding of their business, their challenges, their goals, and then identify what are those top priority items or task
Hmm.
items that you want completed as it relates to your CRM. And then from there, I'll just recommend to them which package that I will offer to them. And I made it simple these past couple of years. I have three packages. I like the names of them. One is called the appetizer plan, which is 10 hours a month. The second one is
Hmm.
called the balanced meal, which is 20 hours a month. And the last one is the full feast, which is 40 hours a month. And based on
Okay.
what the person needs, I will recommend to them which package plan is right for them. And it's month to month, so they could cancel whenever they want. And I tell them my goal is to train you and build the system according to your needs so that you could be self-sufficient and work on your own, whether it's me training you and or your team. Like the goal is to let me leave that process so you're independent
Hmm.
of me and you could actually function on your own without needing me. Now there's some people that just depend on me on a forever basis, and that's fine. Their priorities are different, but I always tell people like my first goal is to train you and or your team so that you could be independent of me. Some people are good with that. Some people don't want that, and they just want to focus on their business, not focus on the
Hmm.
CRM technologies backend, and that's fine. I work with people however they want to work with me, and identifying their priorities and asking a lot of questions to find out how we truly are going to work together. So I like that flexibility.
I love that because there's specific things that I want people to be able to take away from it. There are the platforms, there are the Black Friday deals where, you'll see a lot of features and people jump to be able to try to make the most of those. As someone that was synonymous with future purchases, so I would get something going, you know what, I don't need it right now, but I may need it later. When I started looking back at how much money I was spending on things, there are things that I have that are on the shelf that I've never used. And every time I try to bring it back and say, okay, well, now I can actually use it. There's actually a CRM where I said, okay, well, I know they have a community. And then when I went to look at the community, it was an extra fee. And I'm going, so I paid for all of these things, but the one thing that I need, I have to pay an additional monthly fee. And then there are the ones where it's like you said, there are the features where it's not even just that smaller price. It's baked into a bigger package that in a lot of cases they may call enterprise, or they give it a specific type of name. And you may say, okay, well, it makes sense. Fine. I'll just go ahead and pay it. But when you start thinking about the compound cost of month over month over month over month, you have to start looking at, what happens when, like, you can do it when things are good, but are you also planning for when things may slow down a little bit? And then those extra costs actually mean more to you. And you could be taking that time and focus and all the different things that you have and applying it to something that's actually going to move the needle with the business. So I think it's important to be able to speak to looking at the fine print. And if you're not someone that looks at the fine print, bringing someone in that can actually have those conversations and say, no, here's all the reasons why this is the one that you're most likely going to want to look at. Now, I know when we first had the conversation, I said, well, tell me about some of the CRMs, and you mentioned some that I didn't know about until after you mentioned them, and then I went to look at them to go, now I see why you actually recommend them, because there's the shiny ones that everybody knows about, and then there are the ones that are actually more custom to specific people's needs. And why get something where it has a bunch of features that you're not going to use just so that you can say that you have the features when you can get something that does exactly what you need it to do? And then it's more cost effective. So I think those things are really important. And then you spoke to the different types of people that you work with. There are the DIY people, there are the done with you people, and there are the done for. And the way that I describe it is some people have more money than time, and some people have more time than money.
Mhm.
So you're actually identifying the difference between them and being able to say, okay, we're actually with AI, we're in an empowerment era. Everything is about, there's an overwhelm of information and people are empowered to be able to make all kind of choices and all kind of moves with their business. But it's knowing the right ones to be able to make. So, if you have someone that's more focused on, I want to focus on running my business, then that's somebody that may have more money than time. And they say, you know what, I don't want to have to think about these things. As much as I love that you want to be able to empower me and make sure that I can learn how to do all the things that I want to be able to do, I'm actually almost hiring you as a consultant so that I don't have to think about those things.
Yeah.
And then there are those people that are more done with you, where they are looking to be empowered. And I think that's really special because there are so many businesses that set their foundation and their business model up around keeping you as a customer. And they almost pigeonhole you in a way so that when they bring you in, you're scared to be able to leave, because when you're talking about switching platforms, there's workflows. Anyone that's had to manually set up a workflow, and it's anything that's remotely, I can't even say remotely complicated. If you just had to set up email campaigns and you have multiple campaigns going on, you know how tedious it can be. And you're not going to be anxious to leave from one platform to the next unless you know there's a way to be able to do it seamlessly. So you helping people think those things through beforehand is something that I think is really, really helpful, because if they don't know those things, they'll end up getting on a platform and staying with someone that they don't really like or really want to be with, because their workflow is already set up that way. And it's both with the CRM and the person that helped them set it up. So you giving people the option is something that I think empowers people in ways that a lot of people don't really get. And it's something that I think that's the real value in what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and every time, even the people that just want me to do it for them, that's totally fine. But I show proof that I've actually implemented that requested feature. Like I basically do a training video on how to use it from the user interface perspective,
Mm.
whether it's for them and or any new incoming BAs or employees, so they know how to utilize that feature. And I create a video training library for them, so they have that where they don't need to call on me again and be like, hey, how did you do that before? No, it's documented. There's already a video for it, multiple videos based on what feature you wanted, and I show you how to actually do it with the screen record and step by step on how to implement that feature based on what I implemented for you. So they know everything they wanted was completed. Like I like feeling complete. Like I want
Yes.
it to be complete for them. Like I just don't want to create the feature and say it's done. No, I create the feature, create a Loom video on it, telling them how to actually use that feature. And then when I'm done, I move on to the next feature. I do the same thing over again, repeat and rinse. Keep on
Hmm.
doing it so that they know that everything that I've done for them has been done, and it requires their feedback so that I can make any appropriate changes to refine what they want. And I enjoy that process because it's clear, concise, to the point, and they know that I've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and put the accents on the E's or whatever the case may be.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, no, I think it's really important for people to understand that part of it. I think that what a lot of people are not necessarily thinking about is sometimes someone will walk you through something once, but you're not necessarily going to get it right the first time. And then it's also something where you may not be in a position to be able to use it the way that you want to be able to use it. Having a Loom video and having something where it walks someone through, that's not just for that person, that's for the next person that they may bring in. So
Yep.
if someone ends up scaling or growing their business, now they have something that they can actually share and they don't have to take the time to be able to train that person. You're giving them training for that person to be able to say, oh, here's your onboarding information. This is what I used. And it's also a great way to be able to gauge if you hired the right person. Because if that person was able to understand it based on what you shared with them, and then they share it with someone else who's claiming to be an expert in it, and then they're looking at the video and they can't figure out any of what you're talking about, then it may be something where they look good on the resume, but they're not actually someone that knows how to apply things. I think one of the things that I've learned over the years is there are a lot of people that know how to use certain platforms and tools, but they know how to use it one way. And the moment that you shift things up and say, okay, well, here's how we're going to use it, some people end up being lost. So they're not necessarily experts, they're just someone that used something. And I think that's the difference. So you're empowering people not just to be able to learn how to do it themselves, but you also give them a way to be able to evaluate the people that they may offload things to or outsource things to, because that frees up their time. They don't have to go through the training. They can hand that off to someone and say, okay, this should be enough for you to understand it. And if you don't, that leads to more follow up questions that I think would actually help a business be able to evaluate who they're outsourcing things to and make sure that they're making the right kind of choice. I think that's one of those lessons where it's not just something that we experience, but being able to have the conversation. And this is one of the reasons why I want to have it is because it allows other people to be able to start identifying these red flags earlier with other
Mhm.
people in the conversations that they're having. Because sometimes someone can see something and go, you know what? Well, maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe they had an off day. Okay, one off day is one thing, but once you start to see those off days string together and you know that you've answered a question and then they didn't actually do anything with it, then it goes from being something where it's curious to it being something that's a red flag. And you have to start to figure out what you want to be able to do with those red flags to be able to make sure that everything flows properly. Because if they're it's part of the onboarding process and they're part of something where they're saying they only need like 20 hours, but in the explanation of the fact that they're not actually watching the videos or anything like that, then it could push up the amount of time that they need and it could take them from a done with you to a done for you. So I think it's something that's important for people to understand when they're going into a situation. Be honest with the person that's the expert so that they can gather and gauge what kind of help you actually need. If you're someone that's better with reading than visual, then convey that. If you're someone that, but the majority of people are better with the visual because that's not just something that they can read and say, well, I missed the context. You literally have something that shows you step by step how to be able to do something. So
Yeah.
those that don't read the video are definitely someone that stands out to me as a red flag. And then it's a matter of trying to figure out how to be able to navigate those waters when you run into that with someone. Let's talk about
I've ran into
introductions.
situations where it was the owner and then there was an employee that they hired, and both of them supposedly watched the video, but the employee was always asking questions, and I had in my mind that this person is not either comprehending or they're not
Hmm.
watching the video, and it created more work for me. And the owner and me were kind of on the same page, and that person was let go eventually. I didn't have to say anything. It was all shown in the work and
Right.
the way that person carried themselves in our meetings between us. So I didn't have to, like, I saw the red flag, but I didn't have to do anything about it because the owner was on the same level as me. So she understood that, yeah, this is not going to work. Like, I'm learning more than that particular employee that I hired, and that employee is spending way more time. It's a waste of resource. So yeah. And if I had to talk to the owner, I would voice my concern if she already didn't know, but she already knew.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean that's the situation that I've been in. But I'm always going to be transparent with whoever it is, whether it's that person directly or whether it's direct reports to that person, I'm going to transmit that communication somehow. I've always done that in all my work life or whatnot when people aren't putting in the necessary time to get stuff done because it's putting my progress at fault. It's hindering my
Yeah.
progress to move forward, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the reason I asked is because it's hard to be that specific and have a system and have things in place where you have a very robust structure. Like when you lay something out, I have no doubt when you lay it out that it's going to be, I covered all the checkpoints, I covered all the milestones. So when someone says, yeah, you missed something, I have more questions about what they felt was missed than what you did. So I would imagine in those situations, it's very much what you described, where she was able to go, no, I'm looking at everything and everything made sense to me. If it's not making sense to that person, I have follow up questions for them. I don't have follow up questions for you. And I think that's helpful because whenever you're working with someone that does have that kind of team, sometimes they'll go with the familiarity of that person over the new person that's actually setting everything up for them. And they'll think, okay, well, maybe it's the vendor. But when you have a system in place that is that detail orientated, it makes it so that it's harder for that person to kind of CYA and say, well, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So I couldn't imagine that it didn't come up at some point because there are so many people that will try to work that angle and eventually it ends up coming to light. And I think when you're that level of detail orientated and you're able to set somebody up like a client to be able to be that level of detail orientated, these things bubble up to the surface. So it's not just that you're able to work with clients and set them up with their systems. You're setting them up with systems that allow them to be able to identify those red flags and then make the right moves at the right time to be able to avoid any of those drains on their system, any of the drains on their employment, and just so many different things where sometimes it would be harder for them to catch that. But when you have a system that is that detail orientated, it allows you to be able to find these things faster. And it's not
Yep.
something with entrepreneurship where we all make mistakes. It's not about the mistakes, it's about how quickly you can catch them and correct them. And I think what you put together is something that allows people to be able to identify these things faster and find what works and what isn't working with their system and their business to really be able to do to be able to make the strides and things that they want to be able to make. So I think it's an added bonus to what you do and added value that I want to make sure that other people actually understand. It's not just the onboarding, it's the specificity of what you're putting together and knowing that you have the visual at the same time. It's, I don't want to call it idiot proof, but like, I mean, cause that's a little harsh, but it kind of makes it so that like, if you can't get through this, then we got to have a deeper conversation about, okay, is this really something that you should be managing yourself? Or is this something that, you know, that you should probably look at bringing someone in that can be that expert so that you can focus on what is your expertise? And I think entrepreneurs, to a certain extent, they feel like they have to wear a lot of hats. And sometimes the smartest thing that you can do is realize where your expertise starts and stops. So I know you do the done with you, but that done for you is actually something that I would imagine would be beneficial for people that that's not their bag and that's not something that they excel in. So why not bring somebody in that can be able to say, okay, I'm going to give you this many hours a week and I'll make sure that everything runs smoothly because that peace of mind frees them up to be able to focus on all the things that they can actually do something about.
Yeah, and a CRM is used to CYA, meaning
Yes.
like you could identify those problem clients, problem prospects not to focus on, or the problem employees. Because if you add a staff member into the CRM, you could keep track of what they're doing. You could do spot checks here and there to see if they're actually doing the work they're supposed to do. So it holds everybody accountable, including the boss.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the boss could just set up the permissions where he or she could only see everybody else, but they can't see him or her. But that's the power that they have. It's their system. They invested in it. So now they could see if all their employees are doing the appropriate work to show accountability. And the CRM allows you to be able to see that. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you actually were able to speak to the flip side of that because I've also worked with and worked at places where they would say, "Oh, well, the issue must be the employee," and it's that the owner wasn't actually paying attention to what was set up, and they're just thinking in their head, "Well, it must be this," but they never actually went through the process to understand what the process is. Sometimes it's the employee doing what they're supposed to be doing based on the way things are structured,
Mhm.
and its management is just disconnected to not know what the actual workflow and process is. It's not something that's one sided; it's something that can be at
Yeah.
any given point. You have to be able to make sure that you can identify it, and a proper system will always bubble up the problems so that you can identify it and then actually do something about it. So
Mhm.
I think especially in this market, it's really, really important to be able to find these things early and then be able to address them because the longer it lingers, the more damage that you do. And then it's a blind spot that you can't even see. I apologize for the interruption, but I want to share something with you real quick. After working with hundreds of entrepreneurs, I've learned this. It's never the problem that you can see that's killing your growth. It's the blind spots. So what I've created is the business blind spot calculator. And what it does is it highlights the things that may be slipping past and flying under the radar. Because let's be honest, the things that you're aware of, you're already addressing those. So the business blind spot calculator takes about 10 minutes to be able to complete. And what it'll do is it'll highlight some of the things to be able to look out for, some of the things that your competitors may see that you don't, and allow you to be able to plug some of those holes and get back on that path of least resistance. Now, let's get you back to the episode. But everybody else can see. And the longer it takes for you to be able to figure it out, the more they're questioning how adept you are at what you're doing if you can't see it and everybody else can. So I think there's real value in what you're bringing there. I want to bring it back over to the collaboration and relationship side because yes, there are clients, but sometimes you need the relationships in order to be able to get those clients, especially in this market. You have something where you set it up where you have bios and we talked about it briefly where you have people that will fill out the bio, but you're also checking in to make sure that the bio was up to date. I know we had a conversation and I said, yeah, no, I actually have to go back in and update mine. So that's just been over the span of a few months. I know how quickly things can shift and change in the different markets that people are in. And you're able to make sure that people are getting, they're updating their bios and you're not just making introductions and leaving people to fend for themselves. You're asking the right questions in bios. You're asking the right questions with your system to be able to make sure that you're making the right kind of connection. So there are a lot of people that are doing these networking sessions and things like that. What are some of the things that you look for to be able to identify what you need to know about a person so that you can start to figure out like what introductions to be able to make to other people?
Yeah, so the main thing, well, there's a few, probably four things that I ask
Hmm.
for. Whenever I meet somebody, I tell them, look, in order for me to remember what you do and make the proper connections for you, I need to capture important information that allows me to make better introductions for you.
Hmm.
Because I talk to so many people each day, I cannot remember everything in my head or in some
Right.
random notebook. I need it documented in my CRM. So to help me help you, I
Hmm.
asked that you fill out my networking intro form, which has your brief bio. And I asked for your bios because I want to use your words to properly represent who you are when I make proper introductions for you. So you know yourself a lot better than I do. So I want to use your words to represent who you are. So it allows me to make proper introductions. But also, too, in order to find the right people, I need to know who is your target audience. I need to know who are your strategic partners. And some people get confused by what strategic partners are, they end up
Hmm.
going on a tangent about who their target audience is. It's totally not that. And I have to clarify people. I always ask during my one-on-ones because if I don't ask, they might put it in the same information or incorrectly put in the information when they're
Got
filling
it.
out the form. So I tell them strategic partners are not your target audience. They're other professionals that also are connected to your target audience, but providing a different service. And sometimes that other service provider may call on you because you could solve a problem that they can't and they
Hmm.
want to make their clients happy. So they'll end up referring their clients to you. So I need to know who are the professionals in your network that serve your target audience. It's very, very helpful because that's how I've built my business. I refer to them as the golden gooses. They're
Yes.
laying constant eggs because those eggs are in the form of prospects that you could serve because they know you very well. If you foster a relationship, they will keep you top of mind and connect you with their client base because they can't solve that problem that you can solve. That is the most important thing or component that I've used to build my business is creating strategic partnerships with people like digital marketing people, web development people, because a lot of times their clients might need a CRM, so they refer me
Hmm.
business. A lot of times my clients might need SEO or Google paid ads or copywriting. Well, then I could refer my people to those people that could solve the problem because sometimes my clients think I could solve everything and I can't. Like my
Right.
wheelhouse is CRMs. If they ask me about other things, which I'm happy that they think highly of me that I know how to do that, that's fine. Now it allows me to connect my networking partners to them so that it could be a direct connection to a possible referral. So strategic partners is the very, very, very important data I need to capture from them. And also too, I
Okay.
need to find out what pain points they solve. Like
Hmm.
tell people, like there's a form in there, there's a field that says pain points. Put in all the pain points that you serve. Put in all the keywords because the thing that
Yes.
what's important about that is when you put in all the keywords associated with the pain points that you solve, whenever I run into somebody whether it be a networking partner, a client, and they're telling me about one of their problems that I can't solve, well, I go into my CRM, I'll
Yes.
search for that pain point, and if you inputted your list of pain points in the CRM, you'll come up in the search results. So therefore, you have an opportunity for me to connect you with your direct prospect. And some people fail to put in their keywords associated with the pain points they solve, because I make it optional, but I tell them
Mhm.
why it's required, why it should. I don't want them to have to put it in like it's too much work, but if they're going to put
Right.
it in and it's optional, that means they're really serious about creating a connection to me because they know I could provide them value. So those are the four things that I captured from people, because now all that information that they stored is searchable within my CRM. So I have my own first party data. That this is the data that I've accumulated that's come directly from me, not from some random third party. And that's another thing I believe in. I believe in collecting first party data, which is data that you fostered, that you've extracted from people
Yes.
that have given you consent. Like a lot of these marketers or whatever, they're doing all this advertising, and I always ask them, well, where do you get your data? Where is it at? Where is it coming from? What's the third
Mhm.
party you're using? I don't believe in, like some people believe in third party data. I don't. I would rather create a direct connection to first party data that actually belongs to me, and I can leverage that data because I know those people. That to me is more effective data. It's going to be more engaging data because those people
Mhm.
know who you are. But that's just my process. Like, there's nothing wrong with using Google Ads or whatever to pull from third party data and doing all your filtering or whatnot. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but my preference is to gather first party data that actually belongs to me.
No, that makes sense, and there's a lot to unpack there that I don't want to just kinda
Yeah.
go over someone's head. One, let's just work backwards. Pain points, and just overall, what I heard and what you said is understanding the language. It's no difference than having, the understanding the language that the audience the audience might use if they're a client. It's the same thing with referrals. If you're humble enough to be able to understand where your expertise starts and stops, and you're able to say, well, these are some of the things that I know people struggle with, that allows you to be able to do that kind of search. And that's how people search when they're an audience. That's how people search when they're not just clients, but that's how strategic partnerships are starting to be able to pull stuff together. So if you can't describe it in a bio, if you can't describe it in a form, then you probably can't explain it to who your actual audience is, because
Mhm.
you should be able to understand that language well enough to be able to go, oh no, I mean, this is who I help. This is how I help them. This is why they have the struggles. These are some of the things that I know, like right off the top of my head, because your why, that should be part of your why. It's understanding. One of the things that I say is there are three basic reasons that someone will start a business. They had a great experience that they want to help other people have. They had an awful experience that they want to help people avoid. And then some people just saw an opportunity to be able to make money, and they have like second or third hand knowledge. So I have an appreciation for you saying, I'm not as big of a fan of third hand knowledge. And let's just talk about what that is. That's a third party basically saying, here's everything that I know about the person, and here's how you should be able to use it or leverage it. Well, I mean, that's great, but that's their perception. That's how they view that person. How do you really know that that person aligns with what it is that you want and what you do if you don't actually have that kind of interaction with them? So I think it's great for making an introduction, but I think whenever you're structuring your business or how you're going to go about your messaging or any interaction that you really meant to have with that person, you should have a conversation. You should have some kind of interaction with them, because that's where you validate everything that you heard from the third party and turn it into first party information. And first party is really just
Yeah.
saying, I didn't hear from somebody else. I heard it directly from you. So there's no misunderstanding of, well, I don't know how I ended up on this list. I think that's where there's a disconnect where some people do paid ads. I have no, like, I was in the paid ad business. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely don't have anything against it, but
Me neither.
I think people should be using it as a way to introduce themselves to people. They should find out where these people are. Like, that data is meant to say, well, I found these people here. And then you go where they are and you start to have that conversation so that you can understand the different levels of conversation that you can have with those people. And that's where you really start to find your ideal customer. I think one of the other things that you spoke to, strategic partnership wise, you have a workshop coming up. And one of the things that I loved about it, that based on our conversation, it made me actually put together a framework. And part of that was really being able to understand that you need to understand that people are going to be speaking on your behalf. So if you don't arm them with the information, if you don't arm them with the pain points, you don't arm them with the language that people need to use and things like that, you never know what they're saying. It's almost like that lunchroom rumor that goes around where someone could say something, and by the time it gets back around to the person that said it, it's a completely different thing. So if you're not giving them the information to be able to speak to your business properly, then you're not putting yourself in a position to get real referrals. What you're getting are people that are making introductions, and then you have to go through that whole process all over again. And when you're dealing with someone that's dealing with a time constraint, they may not want to get on a referral call and then start all over again when they could have gotten all that information and realized, yes, it's a good fit, or no, it's not a good fit before they actually got on the call. So I think the bio and everything that you're putting together allows people to not only be able to arm themselves, but the people that they want to be able to give referrals and make introductions. It gives them the information that they need to make meaningful introductions. And it allows you to be able to be more mindful of your time, your calendar, and everything that you're doing. And then it's also, green flag, red flag. We continue to reference it throughout, but it's a red flag if someone can't speak to their business, because
Hmm.
then that makes me feel like, okay, well, now I have to be a little more cautious, because if you don't understand your business and you can't describe what you do, how am I going to put you in contact with somebody else that's looking for you to describe what they do?
Hmm.
Like, for me, that's a red flag. That's going to be something where it's like, okay, I need to have a conversation with you and pull that information out of you and make it so that it's easier for you to be able to express it. But if you can't do it, then me introducing you to someone else that's like this, that's going to be hard for that person to be able to see the value in what you can bring. Because, like I said, if I get on the phone with someone and they can't tell me what they do, then I'm going to have trepidation about whether or not they can explain what I do. So it may be something where I don't want you to speak for me. Like, I don't want you to do that at all, because if you can't talk about your business, I definitely don't want you talking about mine, because you can misrepresent it. And then someone
Yeah.
goes, oh, I thought you did this because when I talked to so and so, and then that could just throw everything off and make it so that your customer journey, instead of getting shorter, it actually lengthens, because now you have to overcome the misconceptions that someone else might have put in somebody else's head. So, again, I think there's value in everything that you're doing, because those systems, those questions that you're asking, are forcing people to be able to say, here's what I know, here's what my expertise is, here's what I'm actually able to do. And then
Hmm.
it makes it a better idea for how and who to be able to make those introductions to. So, again, I applaud you on that, because I don't
Yeah.
think there's nearly enough people that take that kind of make that kind of effort to make sure that the introductions that they're making are actually worthwhile. Like, your ability to be able to help people find their path and find the best way to be able to describe what they're doing and identify where they're at. Those that are actually paying attention and truly trying to do something with it, they're better for it every single time they have a conversation. So every time we have a conversation, I end up feeling better for it, and I'm able to make more strides with my business. So this is partly a thank you, and making sure that other people get to benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, this is actually a really good exercise. Allows me to dive deeper into what I truly do." So it might not be done overnight, but I'm definitely going to look at it. And they fill it out, and now they have more of a complete sense about what they do. And they say, "Oh, thank you for assigning that exercise to me." And I tell them it's not really a homework or anything. It just allows me to help you better. But
Mhm.
if it benefited you, then I'm happy about that because now they could speak better as to what they do because I went made them go through that exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that that forces people to be able to understand how well they're able to describe what they do.
Hmm.
And if it's something that you're struggling with, then, there's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's all these different platforms. Plug it in and say, this is what I'm trying to say. And that will take you from being able to fill out a bio to actually being able to come up with an elevator pitch, so that when someone says, what do? You can say, give me 5 different versions. I want one that I can put in writing, one I can put on my site, and give me something that a few different variations where I can explain it to someone if I'm on a networking call or if I'm just meeting them in passing. It allows them to be able to convey that information in ways that's more digestible to the person in that specific situation. And I don't think that's something that you would necessarily get from an audience unless you've actually structured it to be able to know what kind of ways to be able to get them to give you that information. What you're giving them is something that the audience would technically be asking them. And they may not know it until they see that your bio was asking for it. And they're like, well, dang, if I wasn't able to explain it here, then maybe my audience has the same questions. And then it gives them a reasons to go back through and look at the content that they have out there and see, am I explaining it there as well? Or is it something where there's that disconnect? Because that will identify the reasons why some people have that long customer journey. And that is something that I think is a huge difference in what people may experience. So, as much as I wanted to talk about the client relationship part, that was something that stood out to me when it comes to your relationship management, because it made me reevaluate what I'm looking at. I wanted to say, okay, the reason I had to update my bio was because I started having conversations and I was able to say, okay, I can explain that better. And now that I've realized that I can explain it better, let me say it to a few different people, see if it registers. And then once I know it lands, then I can go back in and update the bio. So now when it comes to me saying, you know what, is there anybody that you can introduce me to? You're able to use the language that I'm supposed to be using. And then this way, when I get on the call, we're not starting from scratch. We kind of got a little bit of a head start with everything from there. One of the things that I would say is we've covered a lot of information and a lot of different talking points. But if people don't do anything else, I want to be able to cover like what's one thing that they can actually do to be able to start taking action today. For me, it's start figuring out how to be able to ask the right questions, because once you can start getting those questions, then it makes it easier to start to figure out which ones can I answer versus which ones I can't. But I don't want to base it on me. You're the actual expert in this. So I would love to be able to get your thoughts on what are some things that people can do to be able to start down that path of getting that level of clarity, not just with their audience, but in their client relationship management, their relationship management.
Yeah, identify the key questions that you want to ask your contacts, whether it's
Mm,
a set of questions for your networking partners, a set of questions to ask your customers or your prospects, and create a framework from that and be very consistent in how you exercise that relationship building process, depending on who you're having a relationship with. In this case, I'm just going to refer to my networking partners. Like, create a system for that. Make it a repeatable system so you be more efficient at doing the relationship building for your networking partners. Again, this is also could be applied to all your other types of business contacts. But in this context, we're just talking about your networking partners, because when you cater and you foster that relationship with them and it's consistent, those people are more likely to give back to you, therefore
mhm.
contributing to the growth of your business as well. So find a system, even if it's right now a spreadsheet, that's fine. Like, use it, be consistent with it, and then down the line, you're gonna grow out of it, and you'll see the inefficiencies in what you're doing, and that's when you know you need to upgrade into a CRM, because it's a great problem to have. That just means you're
Yeah.
growing. So as you
Yeah.
grow and evolve, you're always going to graduate to a new system, whether it be a CRM system or whatnot, or some other system that you find to be relevant for you in your unique case. So, yeah, I would say be consistent, come up with a list of questions that's relevant for you to capture about that particular individual so that you can be impress them with like you remembering what they're doing, and you could provide those good connections for them, because in return you'll be top of mind, and when you're top of mind, people remember you, they'll talk about you, they'll give you testimonials, and now you don't have to talk about and scream from the mountains about how great you are. You don't have to
Right.
talk about that. That's why I like CRMs, because I create those relationships with people, people recognize that, and on behalf of me they talk highly of me, and that creates more referrals for me. Now
Yeah.
I'm saying all these me things, but I'm doing a lot of things where they're talking for me, and I'd rather do that rather than talk about myself, because I don't care about really talking about myself. I like asking and learning about other people. But when you do that, they end up talking about you. So why not have other people talk about you, not you talk about you? It's much more effective.
It definitely is. People want to know what the experience is like, not from you, but from people that are experiencing it from the other side of that table. And I think that's where the real I mean, that's why testimonials and reviews are so powerful because, again, any business can talk great about what they've done. I know that I've spoken to people and they talk about their accomplishments and things like that. But then once I have a deeper conversation with them and I follow up with other questions, I start to realize, okay, so that was posturing. Those are the things that you say that sound good, but like
Mhm.
once you get down to the actual what you're actually doing, then it's okay. Well, now we're at the meat and bones of it, and these are things that I would expect, and you're not in a position to be able to do those things, or it's just not the way that you've necessarily set it up. So, like, then it may take more work to be able to partner with that person. So one of the things that I want to be able to cover and make sure that we talked about is it's not so much about how to be a better networking person and talk about yourself. It's really a better it's how to be able to be better at pulling that information from other people because when they realize you're actually interested in what they're doing and you're not just listening for yourself but you're listening for your collaboration partners, the value network, all the different ways that you can frame it, then it gives you a level of value where someone's listening to you more intently because they're saying, okay, you've been asking me about me, you've been asking about my expertise, you've been asking where I start and stop. And at no point have you really talked about like your business. You're saying, no, I mean, I want to make sure that if I hear those pain points, if I hear someone mention something, that I'm able to put you in contact with that person. So when you're having this conversation with me, it's not just you networking with me, It's you networking with all the other people that I know that can bring value back to your business. So that's not a referral that you're just getting from me here. It's a potential referral that you'll get from all the other people that I know. And if my process makes sense to you now, imagine how well it works with all these other people that can make that introduction as well. So I think there's real value in your ability to be able to do that. And then actually, in a way, just by your process, you're training people how to be better people at referring and making introductions. And it just widens that web so that I would say everybody eats. And I mean, in what world is that not a good thing, especially when we're dealing with so many people with the crabs in the barrel mentality?
Yep, I agree. Totally agree.
Okay. Now, with that, we've tried to see to everybody else, and I know as much as you don't like to talk about yourself, I want to brag on your upcoming workshop that you have coming up because we've talked about collaborations. You're actually collaborating on a workshop that you have coming up on the 1st. And I know it's something that, depending on when this airs, I just want to make people aware of the fact that you are doing different things and to be able to keep an eye out for it. So, can you tell me a bit about the workshop and not just this one? Do you have any other ones that you think about rolling out? I know we joked about someone saying you should do a workshop, and I was like, oh, yeah, you totally have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, there are things that you can potentially be putting out. And I want people to know not just to look for you for now, but where to be able to find you and how to be able to keep track of the things that you're putting out.
Yeah, so the upcoming workshop that I'm doing is on August 1st at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's called Building a Resilient Business Practical Strategies for Thriving in Any Economy. And I do a lot of collaborative workshops with a lot of
Hmm.
different business consultants because they cover the business strategy side, and I cover implementing those strategies in the form of a system, in this case, a CRM system. So, I'm going to be talking about how you implement these CRM systems to grasp the fundamentals of resilience and why it's crucial for long term success. And we're
Hmm.
gonna it's just basically a lot of concepts that people should know, but actually how to translate those business requirements into a system that's going to actually grow with you, so you could create a repeatable system that is allows you to continue to grow in the terms of getting more referral partnerships, generating more business, and how to adapt and build strong relationships and embracing those relationships and fostering those relationships so it creates opportunities for both parties. And one of the important things is embracing innovation. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the technology side of
Hmm.
how to implement a CRM, a little bit of the AI, a little bit of the automations behind the scenes so that
Nice.
you can create a repeatable system that streamlines operations, that allows you to focus more on other parts of your business that you want to focus on. Like the goal is to create a system in place that is semi automated or automated so that you have more time to foster relationships with all your contacts, whether it's a networking partner, customer, or prospect, because having more time to foster those relationships is what's going to set you apart from everybody else. It is your biggest unique identifier. And so many of us are
Absolutely.
into manually doing all this technology stuff, all this administrative work. Well, why not work smarter, not harder, so that you have time to really differentiate yourselves and give time to the people that matter, which are your networking partners, customers, and prospects? So that's one workshop that's going on, and people don't have to show up live. They could actually get the recording if they want to. And the
Okay.
next workshop that I'm actually in the process of doing, I'm actually in the process of talking to two other business consultants, branding strategists, or whatnot. We're going to do shared workshops. One of those workshops is CRM to CYA.
Yes.
So that's definitely going to be a topic that we're going to talk about. I'm talking about that with a operations consultant. So
Nice.
that's something that's in the works, and we're just nailing down the topics that we're going to talk about to showcase each of our expertise while focusing on that topic. So yeah.
Wonderful. I wanted to make sure that I covered that. One extra follow-up question to that. Where's the best place to keep track of all of these different things that you're working on? I know that I follow you on LinkedIn. Is that going to be the best platform for staying up to date with what you're working on, who you're collaborating with? And then
Mhm.
also for the collaborators that are saying, you know what, I can cover this aspect of it, but I would actually want someone to be able to come in and talk about the systems and show people how to be able to implement the strategies and the tactics that I'm working on. So for the people that just want to be able to follow you, I'd love for you to be able to say where are the best places to follow. And then I also want to make that broad introduction since this is evergreen and it's a podcast to make it so that people that hear this and see this are able to say, you know what, that's somebody that I would love to be able to collaborate with. And when they reach out, they can reach out with, well, here's what I'm bringing to the table. And I would love for you to be able to bring your expertise as well.
Yeah, the best place to reach me at is on LinkedIn. I'm the most
Okay.
active there, engaging with people. people are DMing me, I'm DMing them. And then my website, healthydataguy.com, it's pretty easy to remember. And there's a contact form and everything like that. Book a calendar, book a meeting with me, however you want to contact me. But those are the top two
Okay.
places in which I am always engaging. So yeah, those are the top two places.
Okay, well, I will make sure to include that in the show notes and the description for the podcast so that people know not just how to be able to find you, but they're actually following, because it's not just a matter of finding out about some of the upcoming things that you have going on. You're not someone that posts just to be posting. You actually put things out there that are relevant to people. So it's follows so that you can stay up to date with some of the things that you would want to know about. And that's where the value starts. And then the value continues on with actually having an interaction with you and
Mhm.
learning more about what you're doing, your systems, and everything that you have in place. So I'll make sure that we include that where everyone can access it. But I want to make sure that we actually covered it on the website as well, because some people don't necessarily do the follow up where they look in the show notes or they don't go into the description. I wanted to make sure that we covered that because that really speaks to, don't just take the information that we're sharing. Let's actually look at how to be able to follow up on it. And if you can't take action, then why not go back to the person that gave you the insights in the first place and allow you to be able to get the next steps that will allow you to be able to put the systems in place and cover the ground that you want to be able to cover. Okay, so now with that, I'm going to go back to the promise. And I said by the end of this episode, you'll have a better understanding of the state of networking and collaborations, of the importance of vetting who you not just connect with, but invite on your journey, and how to systematically stay up to date with not just who's in your network, but what's going on with them so that you can continue to add value first and secondhand by putting people in contact with people that can help you on your path to your definition of success. And I think you've covered that flawlessly. There are systems that allow you to be able to do it. We've covered how it can benefit you, not just from a client relationship standpoint, but from a relationship standpoint, from identifying red flag clients, red flag people that you may refer to, people that you don't want referring you. It covers a lot of different angles. And I think you did a great job covering it. So I'm going to say thank you for not just
The time, and hopefully some people here have learned about the benefits of relationship building and keeping track of all your highly engaging partners so that you could contribute to each other's success. That is the main goal of business. We can't do it all alone. It's all
Mhm.
about having other supporters in our corner so that we could continue to grow and thrive in what we do. So yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. That's it. I will close on that. Like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for your time. This is Brandon Drake. He is the CRM expert. He is what I would consider a relationship building expert. And I want you to be able to not just listen to this podcast. I want you to be able to follow him and learn about how to be able to better your business and yourself. Because it's not just with entrepreneurship. These are lessons in life that will allow you to be able to identify the people that you probably shouldn't have in your circle and the people that you should a little bit sooner so that you can manage life a little bit better. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we will see you next time.
All right, all right. Take it easy.
Thank you for tuning in to the Strategic Thinkers podcast. Remember, when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for the experience. The better the experience, the more they'll not only pay you, but help others pay you. Serving as brand champions. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm wishing you well on your journey to your definition of success. If you find this podcast interesting, helpful, worth the listen, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a positive review so people know to check it out, and I'll see you next time.